And now I'm going to try to do a little watercolor gesture here of the beautiful autumn colors at Charles Rummel Park. So it helps to dilute your little paint box, and all you need is any little paint box with a few colors. Sometimes I bring two so that as they get dirty I have some pure color to work with. And you just need a few brushes so that you can keep one maybe that's a little more yellow in tone, and you can test it. I'm going to just do a little gesture here on this piece of the tree, but I can practice and check my color saturation here and let it become more of a wash with more water, or intensify it more with more pigment. And so I'll let that dry and see what happens. And as I want it to become deeper, I would add the opposite color on the color wheel, which would be purple, as a shadow. So I have a purple color here, and that's what I'll use to try to bring out the beautiful luscious yellows of this autumn tree. Now, people have asked, where do you start first, background, foreground? You can start with drawing it, but I'm going to do a fast impression and just lay down some washes of yellow as I feel are coming from that tree. And some of this is a cooler yellow right here. And the cooler yellow is actually on the base here. It'll have some greens in it too. And some of the warmer yellow starts to come forward here. So I'm putting warmer yellow and even some earth tones into this piece. So this is just like raw sienna. And just little gestures of the leaves. I can add water in there and let it run wet on wet. And I can see that there's little bits of green in here, so I'm going to get some sap green and let it bleed through the leaves here. And even some umber and purple. So this is just sort of some of the darker areas that'll be a part of the tree's trunk. And it's nice that some of it's on this dry part of the paper. So when I'm painting outdoors, I don't wet the whole paper necessarily, because I want some of it to be dry right away to take the full saturation of the paint. And there's a little crooked part of the tree, so I want to exaggerate that, get some nice gestures, and even some dry brush here. So just getting some purple over the first layering of the branch. Purple coming down here, intensifying the pigment this side of the tree because the sun's the other side. So all of this will be darker underneath as well. And then we have this lovely evergreen in the back. So I'm going to take a bigger brush and get a forest green, which is purple and green together, and just start a gesture of this tree in the back. Now this is very watery, so I'm going to have to get more pigment. And let's just see, this is a green, a little more green here. So I'm just getting a gesture of the tree in the back, and green's quite pure, so I'm going to add a little more purple to it, red purple, and that way it should get to be darker. It's peeking through the back of this tree. So let's get it in here. I'm going to move it to this side a little bit. I'm going to warm it up on this side with sap green. That's a bit wet up there. I'll have to wait for it to dry. And there's another tree in the distance here, so I'm going to make that a little bit green here. Let's get this green color is a bit hard to get, but let's just see. Okay, a little bit of orange doesn't hurt with all those leaves on the ground. So let's just stamp those. One falling down. And if I would like to make a really light area, I'll leave it white, and then I can come back and put a nice glaze over. So for instance, that rock that's there, it's a gray color, so I can mix gray by mixing all the primaries together and get a nice little gray rock here. In the background there, got moss on it. Just drop a few more pure colors. Since I like this blue, I'm just going to gently place it in the tree a bit. Bring my eye up there into the tree. Cut out that tree in the distance as a negative shape. See, I put dark beside the light, and it makes the light stand out. So painting in watercolor, you have to keep in mind you're keeping the white of the paper, you're putting darks on in layers, and you can cut out little negative shapes, put in darks around things to make them stand out. And lastly, you can add a little bit of pure pigment, like another warm yellow, to areas and get some more saturation. Make sure there's some water in it. So you see how that glows a little more with a second layer of paint. I'm going to add some nice orange right on top here. It'll blend into the green, but at least there's a saturation there that it brings a little bit of depth of color, and some of the leaves falling down here, flowing down and ending up on the ground and the rocks. And there's lovely moss on these rocks, and the nice thing about all of these things that you see outdoors can remind you of how communities work together, and the smaller things, just like smaller paintings, still contribute to the whole and to the bigger works that we do. So it's just a nice way to express nature and some of the colors it presents. And remember that sometimes the smaller things are what help build and contribute to the large. And we can be thankful for this day too.